Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 23. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Wednesday, Steelers Nation, as we are going to recap the Falcons game, give an eye towards the Week 2 against the Denver Broncos. Mike Tomlin having his Tuesday press conference. A lot to discuss there. Some roster moves, some reuniting with former Steelers. Dave, today's show should have it all. How you doing?
Probably doing better than Jaylen Warren on that keeper fourth down and short that failed. Rolling back through the tape, he got it right in the jejunum, or lower than the jejunum. It's amazing when you load up this All-22 and you start going through it a couple of times, the things that you find. But boy, glad to be talking about a 1-0 Steelers team heading into Week 2 trip to Denver. We'll get into who it's looking like might be the quarterback this week, and transactions that have happened, and Dave missing something very important on the salary cap. We'll get to that as well too today.
All right, Dave, where do you want to start here? Let's begin, with the roster moves, the latest transactions Pittsburgh has made since we left you guys on Monday, and there have been several. Unfortunately, and this was the indication based on just the appearance of the injury and, Mike Tomlin's comments post-game, Steelers have placed punter Cameron Johnston on injured reserve with a knee injury. Tomlin hinting he'll have surgery the next couple of days. He is out for the season. Don't know exact specifics, but we could take some decent guesses about what a knee injury in Week 1 that knocks you out for the year means. And Pittsburgh had to find a punter to replace him. And they found a familiar name in Corliss Waitman, coming back for his third stint in Pittsburgh, punted in a pair of games in, I forget what it was, 2021 or 2022. And so he'll be back with the team for the foreseeable future and head to a pretty familiar place in Week 2 in Denver, a place he punted in several games over the course of his career. Pittsburgh also making some other moves here and bringing back old friend, former first-round pick Terrell Edmunds, signed off the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad. Pittsburgh had an open roster spot when they put Logan Lee on IR last Saturday, and Edmunds can essentially fill that, and also a practice squad move of signing wide receiver Shaq Davis to the practice squad and releasing edge rusher Marcus Haynes, who joined the team late in training camp. So Waitman, Edmunds, the headline names added to this roster, Dave.
Yeah, it's sad that you had to go that way. This, obviously because of the injury to Cameron Johnston, and it just makes you sick. And Mike Tomlin gave him all the flowers and heartfelt, how sad it was to lose him like that to a knee injury. And surgery sounds like forthcoming for him. So you just hope that he's able to rebound from this and be the Steelers punter, obviously for years forthcoming on top of it. But Waitman, obviously a guy they know a lot about. And I thought it was interesting. Mike Tomlin talked about how he's improved his holding, and as part of talking about his addition back to the roster, and thought it was another interesting nugget, and an obvious one, but things that on the surface there that you mentioned, that he did spend time punting for the Broncos, so it's going to be familiar territory up there when he punts for the Steelers on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes, and I imagine Christian Kuntz and Waitman and Boswell will be working on the exchanges and all, and the holding quite a bit this week. And we're still waiting to find out if Chris Boswell won Special Teams Player, AFC Special Teams Player of the Week for Week 1. That might happen during the show, or should happen. But yeah, that's the Waitman move. And Edmunds being signed off the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad. Didn't necessarily see that coming, but it obviously makes sense. And Mike Tomlin talked about he has familiarity with us, and we have familiarity with him, and all that goes along with that. It is a little bit curious because I don't know, maybe we'll get more clarity. Maybe somebody going to crop up on the injury report or something that we don't know about later on this Wednesday here. But Edmunds, if I remember correctly, doesn't have much, if any, experience as a gunner, but obviously does as a special teams player. And this is a Steelers team that promoted Ben Skoranek from the practice squad for week 1 as a big body guy. I kind of wonder if that's going to be obviously, look, you're not going to get him on the field if you can help it defensively when it comes to Edmunds because of the guys that play in front of him. But I do wonder if this addition of Edmunds might mean something towards the special teams lineup, and if it might result in maybe Skoranek not getting elevated on this Saturday.
Yeah, we'll have to see. There's a lot of factors in play. The status of Darius Rush, who Mike Tomlin confirmed is in concussion protocol, and Rush served as one of the starting gunners this past weekend until he got hurt. And Skoranek was a gunner, and you're right. I don't think Edmunds would play in that role. Really, my thought is exactly what Mike Tomlin ended up saying Tuesday of, we don't really need this guy right now, but we have the spot and we never know what's going to come down the road. Pittsburgh got so decimated by safety injuries and suspensions last year, and they felt a little weak at backup strong safety behind Deshaun Elliott. There was Jalen Elliott and Miles Killebrew, but really more special teamers than they would be defensive options, ideally. And so Edmunds, I think, provides some good depth there. So just the opportunity to add a guy that's still only, 27 years old, still a pretty young guy because he came out so young out of Virginia Tech, and someone that they know well. And if Elliott ever went down, Edmunds could step in. There's great chemistry and familiarity with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and that's valuable. And Minkah didn't play a single snap in the box against Atlanta, and that's the best thing you could say about his performance, to not have to do that. It obviously played well, but I was just happy to see that in my charting. So I think they wanted to make sure they preserve that, where if Elliott ever went down in game, they don't want to have to make too many big adjustments.
All right, so that's the primary roster moves. I don't know what to read into the practice squad move. A little bit weird to have to add a wide receiver, especially with Roman Wilson supposed to kind of ramp it up a little bit more this week. So kind of interested to see if maybe a wide receiver on the 53 shows up on the injury report later today. But I found that a little bit curious of why a wide receiver, specifically a big body guy, or probably not weight wise, but height wise in Shaq that they're adding to that unit.
Yeah, I think maybe something comes up on the injury report. Never quite sure exactly the rhyme or reason with some of these moves in some cases, but nothing too crazy there. Let's talk injuries since you mentioned it. And of course, Mike Tomlin discussed it. We'll get into the Russell Wilson conversation here in just a minute. His status, though, short answer, up in the air right now. Pittsburgh proceeding as if Justin Fields will start, and they'll evaluate Wilson later in the week. Mentioned Darius Rush in concussion protocol. Tomlin seemed optimistic he would exit it sooner than later, but can never say for sure. And so we'll just monitor that status going forward. Also mentioned Dan Moore Jr. has ankle swelling, said it could limit his reps. Tomlin did early in the week of practice. As you mentioned, Roman Wilson going to be progressing. It sounds like he'll get some full participation when he was limited throughout last week. And so does that guarantee he'll dress and play and involvement? Who knows? But moving in the right direction, and so that's good. Tomlin did not rule out Isaac Seumalo against Denver when he ruled him out against Atlanta. Still would be surprised if Seumalo played, but seems to be encouraging all the same. So overall, in a pretty good place, I think, health-wise, Johnson aside for get it going in a week 2.
Yeah, other than the Cameron Johnston thing, they look to come out of this week fairly well, and we'll obviously see what the Wednesday afternoon injury report has to say and pass that along to people on the site later today, and you and I will talk about it as we get into Friday closer to game time.
All right, how do you want to tackle the Russell Wilson situation? Do you want to just start with the injury component? Do you want to talk about everything Mike Tomlin had to say about where the quarterback situation sits? How do you want to address the elephant in the room?
Oh, well, first and foremost, roll back to kind of, and I think I said this after on the Monday show there. It seemed kind of dog and pony-ish with Russell Wilson going out there pregame the other day, and the reports were that he didn't do all that much other than throwing the football around a little bit, and you kind of wondered at that point how close really is he? Really just speculation though at that point. But I tell you, in totality of what all Mike Tomlin had to say on Tuesday, it seems like it would be a stretch for Russell Wilson to start on Sunday against the Broncos. Now, he said he's going through he's not really going to do much on Wednesday other than put him through, like, what did he say, battery of movements or something like that. So I guess they'll just kind of see how he's able to move on Wednesday, and then make more of a determination, give it to the doctors and all like that for Thursday. But it feels like right now, and he used the word, probably a slip up on Mike Tomlin's part, but during one of the answers that he gave, he said he's not healthy right now, which, I mean, he's not, I mean, but for that to come out of Mike Tomlin's mouth, and look, what I said the other day, this team needs to make a decision by at least Thursday morning of who their quarterback's going to be, I think, and not string this along during the week. If Justin Fields is going to start, let him take all those first team reps and get as prepared as possible this week, and don't let this thing linger. But my main takeaway, really, Alex, is that it doesn't feel like Russell Wilson's going to be able to play in a revenge game against the Broncos on Sunday.
Yeah, and Tomlin stating clearly that they're going to proceed as if Fields is the starting quarterback, and something will have to change for that mindset to change. It gives me a lot of vibes to last year when Pickett was starting to come back from his ankle sprain and Mason was still starting or was turned to as the starter, and Tomlin would basically enter the first couple of press conferences under those circumstances and say that, Pickett working his way back, we'll monitor, we'll evaluate, we'll proceed as if Mason is going to be this team's starter. It's a similar vibe to that. And you kind of just, wait till that injured quarterback is really fully healthy and buy yourself some time and make the decision from there. So yeah, at this point, it would be a pretty big upset by how it sounds, at least, for Wilson to start. You do wonder, and this might take us down a rabbit hole briefly, but does Wilson think he's healthy to go? Because he told the team reportedly last week he was healthy to play against Atlanta. And so I assume with a couple more days' time, he probably feels like he can definitely play against Denver. And of course, there's a big revenge and, meeting component to that. And as positive as Wilson is, he's a hyper competitor. And so, he's dying to play against Denver and beat those guys. What's going to be his reaction, assuming, and should Tomlin sit him against the Broncos?
Yeah, I would imagine, though, most athletes in general, though, even not named Russell Wilson, if they think they're close, they probably think they can play. You've got a situation here, though, that you do have a somewhat experienced quarterback in Fields, and although it wasn't great statistically from an offensive perspective, he got the job done. Justin Fields did against the Falcons. You can, if you're not turning the football over, and if you give them, here's the big thing I'm looking for this week, and I'm assuming that Russell Wilson is not going to play. How does Justin Fields look if he gets the full complement of first team snaps throughout the week, and how are they able to build onto what they did offensively in week one because of that, and seeing him inside of a stadium for week one in a regular season action there. Fact of the matter is you're good enough at the backup quarterback position, at least in this specific matchup against the Falcons. Whereas if Russell Wilson's not able to execute the type of game plan that you had in store for him going into the season, then you should go with the backup in Justin Fields. Because once again, one of my biggest fears, even heading into this season before the whole calf tightness thing resurfaced, and especially after that surfaced, was, man, this does not need to become a weekly or a bi-weekly thing. As he tweaked that calf again. Is he in or is he out this week? So if he's not, and Mike Tomlin will know it. If he's not able to have the range of mobility that he wants to have to accomplish the things that you want to do off in Arthur Smith's system, then he should sit until he's healthy.
Right. And I think that's the calculation that Pittsburgh is making here. I think, they don't want to potentially risk a longer term injury by playing Wilson when he's not, fully healthy and like 100% good to go. And they also probably want to get more looks at Fields. And there's kind of a little bit of both working here where, we have a player that is, starter last 3 years. We can have some more kind of leeway in letting Wilson get fully healthy and let Fields go out there, because we believe we can win with Justin Fields. If it was, some real bad backup, it was a true quote unquote backup, let's just say Kyle Allen, maybe this team would be pushing Russell Wilson a little bit harder and have a little more wiggle room and letting him go out there and play and, kind of take that chance, be a little more risk adverse if they had a less ideal, guy to turn to than Justin Fields. Where do you think this thing goes from here? Mike Tomlin asked, the hypothetical, once Wilson is fully healthy, who will start? And he, of course, declined that, which is not surprising. It's a typical Tomlin answer. It's not his first time around the block with those kinds of things, but it is notable that there was no endorsement of Wilson is going to be our starter once he is fully healthy. What happens when that is the case?
Yeah, he didn't. How many times this offseason has he been careful not to paint himself into a corner? And I kind of view this as that as well, saying, I am unmoved by some of the narratives. To be quite honest with you, we've got an approach to business. I always stand in front of you guys when people are somewhat limited, and I say we'll push through the week and let their participation be our guide in terms of whether to include them, and then quality of that participation. Goes on to say the scenario is no different for me. Respectfully, I understand that you have to ask that question, but it doesn't mean that we need to change our position and do things that are abnormal. In an effort to answer it, we're just simply going to proceed with what we normally do. Our energies and attentions are on those that are available and scheduled to play. They are deserving of that. When those that are not healthy, we'll ponder it at that time. When those that are not healthy are healthy, we'll ponder it at that time. So it buys him a little time regardless there. And look, get into week 2 and Justin Fields plays better, and you might get in a situation where you might not want to move on from that right away, because obviously Justin Fields gives you a better mobility component than Russell Wilson does at his age. So he might get into a situation where if it's not broke, we're not going to fix it. But this is a game. Make no mistake. And this is my thoughts coming out of that week 1 game. Justin Fields' play, although good enough to win and definitely was not negative as a whole, still did not put me in a position where I say, oh, this is a guy that's got to just. You got to roll with this guy now. Now, can he change that? Can he change that opinion in week 2 with a solid performance? Well, it would definitely cause more discussion in that area. But I think this just rolls back to, can you win a game and get out of a stadium with Justin Fields as your quarterback in week 2, and in the process, make sure you're getting Russell Wilson at least another week of march towards complete health? And to me, the answer is yes.
That sums it up well. I think that's why Tomlin isn't answering the question about who the starter will be once Wilson is healthy, because it's the known unknown of we'll see how week 2 goes. We don't expect Wilson to play, and we don't know how Fields is going to do. And I don't want to, like you said, paint myself in a corner giving an answer before I have all the information in front of me to make a decision declaration for, say, week 3 of the home opener against the Chargers. I think it would have to be clear and obvious for Fields to keep the job long term, the way it was clear and obvious that Rudolph was going to be the starter the rest of the season once he entered the lineup last year, even after Kenny Pickett was 100% and fully healthy, recovering from that high ankle sprain. So, yeah, I want to see this offense and how it opens up some more. I know Pittsburgh was very careful with their game plan against Atlanta for a variety of reasons, the messiness and the uncertainty of the quarterback situation, the opponent, the two great safeties they were facing in Bates and Simmons didn't want to test those guys. So hopefully the game plan opens up when Fields can kind of go wire to wire as the starter. It needs to. I give Fields credit for playing smart as a passer, playing within the scheme, not trying to do too much. But I still think, barring it becoming clear and obvious, probably by week 3, Wilson is going to be the starter again.
That's where I'm trending right now. But obviously, once again, like I said near the top of the show, I am interested and I am assuming that Russell Wilson will be sidelined again this week. I am very interested to see how Fields is able to perform with, assuming that he pretty much knows at the start of the week that he's going to be the starter and gets the full complement of reps and everything that and not be told in the locker room 90 minutes before
by Russell Wilson.
By Russell Wilson. You're up. That kind of thing there. This is easy for ratings purposes to be framed as a quarterback controversy right now, especially based on a few answers that Mike Tomlin gave on Tuesday. I don't view that as that right now. We'll see what happens on Sunday, obviously, but it's too easy to go down the conversation topic of, we've got a quarterback controversy here. Now, had Justin Fields done more play, look, he did. Here's the thing that the tape shows, and I know you agree with this, and we talked about the other day anyway, because we had a full grasp of what happened anyway. The game plan for him was muted overall, and it took advantage of his athletic ability and things that they knew that he does well with his feet and all like that. That's not his fault. He executed the game plan the way it needed to be executed. And yeah, we get it, the middle of the field, and I know it's an easy topic to look at that big empty box in the middle of the field. But there weren't a lot of opportunities. Look, there were only really 10 true pass sets by offensive linemen in this game because of either screens or rollouts or boots and that kind of stuff there. So because of he executed what he was supposed to execute. Now, did he miss some throws in this game? Did he make errors in this game? Yes, but he did have a high completion percentage. He was able to push the football down the field in certain times of this game. And once again, you can't fault him for that questionable OPI called, which would have really probably changed the complexion of the game a little bit more. And you also can't get on him for really some of the overall execution later on in the game that I want to talk about when we get back into recapping this. The last 8, 9, 10 plays this team ran were very ineffective overall from an execution standpoint there on top of it. So just rolling back to what got me down this rabbit hole is I don't view it as a quarterback controversy just yet.
No, I think Wilson will get it once he's fully healthy, but the team will take their time. And I feel like they can take their time to get Wilson back fully healthy because there is still a level of confidence and belief that Fields can play well enough to win, and that's boosted by his performance. While you're right, Pittsburgh was very careful with the game plan and designed it and called it to make sure the Fields couldn't take too many chances. He still played within the scheme. And we've seen a lot of quarterbacks go out there with a game plan supposed to be tailored to protect them, and they make a bad decision because they get pressured, or the first read isn't there, or the defense has a great counter, or they get stuck in a 3rd and long, and you press because you're trying to push the ball and make a play. And Fields did not do that to his credit. So I know the game plan was protective of him, but Fields also, played within that scheme and system and game plan. It didn't try to stray beyond it, even when there was pressure and things got a little tight. So kudos to him for that. But I think even Jeremy Fowler kind of referenced this when he reported Wednesday that Wilson is expected to become the starter again at some point once he's fully good to go, is that Wilson still shows just overall better command of this offense. There is probably some more trust here. And, that's a little tough to judge in the Atlanta game because of the circumstances. Fields becoming the starter so late in the process. That's why I want to see how the game plan looks and how things function against Denver in kind of a more quote unquote normal week for Fields. But there just probably is some better trust and command of the offense that Wilson has over Fields, and why he was named the starter initially, prior to week 1. So unless we see a big dramatic change there, that's probably going to be the catalyst for why they go back to Wilson for, say, week 3.
I agree.
All right, let's talk about Tomlin, and we'll talk about Fields' performance and a little bit more on the quarterback stuff here as we kind of recap the All-22 of the Falcons game in a little bit. But I thought a really interesting comment that Tomlin made, and I missed it, listening to it live, but we're talking about Troy Fautanu, and he's healthy, he dressed, he was active for week 1. He was the backup tackle behind Broderick Jones. Dan Moore Jr. did not play on offense, but Tomlin said that Fautanu is deserving of being in a battle, or, deserving of having some looks and potentially trying to work his way into the lineup. And I really want to see how that goes. There could be an opening there with Dan Moore's injury, probably at least for today's practice, and we'll see where it goes from there. But it is hard to work your way into the lineup once it's set, barring injury. So, Tomlin is keeping that door open, though, to say he's deserving of it. So some pretty strong language there from him.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And obviously, you would think Fautanu going to get well, he didn't end last week as questionable or anything, so he obviously dressed, so he's healthy enough to play. I don't think I don't think anything that happened in that game against Atlanta overall would call for Fautanu to get the start over Broderick Jones this week. But if Broderick Jones does stumble a little bit, I could potentially see maybe an in-game change or a week 3 change. But as I sit here right now, I'm not expecting Fautanu to start at right tackle.
Well, I think the way he would have to do that is if Moore's injury was severe enough that it held him out, and then Jones shifts over to left tackle. Yeah, it's not going to be where Jones gets benched. But if Moore is able to play, and Tomlin wasn't giving indications that he wouldn't be healthy enough to play, just would be managed, probably limited today, and probably get Fautanu extra reps today, it's likely how they're going to kind of handle this whole situation. But is he going to start mid-season? Like you said, unless somebody really plays poorly or gets hurt, it's kind of unusual to make that change there. So just curious to see how that goes, how Pittsburgh will handle that, because they're not closing the door on Fautanu starting. But how do you get him into the lineup in a clean, smart way is difficult to navigate.
Yeah, we'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah. What else from Mike Tomlin did he have to say that caught your attention during his Tuesday presser, Dave?
What did you think about the non-rhythmic passing comment? Trying to find that thoughtfully non-rhythmic. Do you have that pulled up?
Those were our intentions. We need to continue to do so in an effort to stay a step ahead of the posse, if you will. Rhythm passing, quells, blitzing, and rush, and obviously peel flipping plays minimize execution. I learned a long time ago, man, a 50-yard touchdown eliminates a lot of execution, and so we're going to aggressively pursue that as well. I think we can do both. Yeah, I'm not. I mean,
I'm struggling parsing that.
I don't know. I think it's just from the game plan of we're going to mix up our attack and not do the same thing. I thought they were pretty rhythmic, though, especially in the second half, with a ton of those boots and rollouts and getting 5 yards, which was fine. I thought that was smart and kind of way to stay on schedule and get Fields into a rhythm. utilize his legs a little bit. But yeah, they took some shots. I mean, it was a fairly balanced game plan.
Yeah, and hope to see more shots down the field in week 2, obviously. Is Jaylen Warren fully healthy? Again, that's a slippery slope in the football world. He's healthy enough, certainly. He's healthy enough to get out there. Obviously, his snap count was muted in week 1. I suspect he isn't 100% healthy just yet. And I wouldn't be totally shocked if Najee Harris once again had the lion's share of the carries in week 2 against Denver with a little bit of Cordero Patterson mixed in again.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, ideally, Warren's role increases. I don't want the guy to be stuck with 2 carries every week. He's too talented for that. I think the team knows that, but the injury is probably playing a factor there. So I think Warren's role will increase over the next couple of weeks.
He was asked about how did Scotty Miller end up being the emergency holder, and I immediately thought of one Alex Kozora going down the YouTube rabbit holes. He said he did a straw poll and asked if anybody did hold in high school, and Scotty said, yes, I held in high school. He said, Thomas said that was Thursday. He got a little bit of practice after that, man. Flexibility is awesome. Just a lot of flour, which certainly do for a guy for what Scotty Miller was asked to do and all like that. But I couldn't help but think poor Alex went down that rabbit hole of looking for high school holds by Scotty Miller, and he couldn't find them.
I'm throwing the challenge flag on this one. I think Scotty lied. I think he just, it's one of those like, oh yeah, I did that. I'll do whatever I can to help the team kind of thing. Remember how like Pat McAfee was drafted and he was like, did you hold? He's like, yeah, I held. He never held ever and just lied, through it. So he probably did hold at some point, but I cannot tell you how much Barrington High School tape I have watched. Far too much than what I ever anticipated to do. The Barrington Broncos, and I have yet to see him hold. So I'd like some information from Scotty Miller on that.
All right. Anything else?
I thought Tomlin had a really interesting point that we've made a lot this offseason about Larry Ogunjobi. This is his best, summer and training camp, and it really centered around health. Because last, 2-3 years he's been, dinged by the knee or foot injury he initially had when he first signed with Pittsburgh. He's had toe issues, just been sidelined, just some stuff that's kind of messed with him and not giving him full reps during training camp in the preseason. And he's been 100% good to go, available every step of the way. And you saw him play a really good game as a pass rusher, especially against Atlanta. You pointed out getting pressure, I think, on both interceptions. Elliott and Dante Jackson had. Ogunjobi was one guy in there collapsing the pocket. And so Tomlin really talked up his health, leading to some really good play.
Yeah, that makes me feel good. And I know you as well, too, from a validation standpoint that, what you saw during training camp, what we both saw during the preseason is, man, he looked healthy, the healthiest he's looked since he's been in a Steelers uniform, man. I thought, other than maybe getting moved out on some run plays overall occasionally, and look, they had problems on that first drive against the run, regardless, especially when the Falcons ran away from TJ Watt. The one they ran all those plays to the left side and had success, and then the one time they get down in the red zone, try to run towards TJ Watt's side, they got what they got there. But Larry does look healthy, and I thought overall it was a good game for him in week 1. So some validation there.
From veteran to rookie, Tomlin praising the job that Beanie Bishop Jr. did in his first NFL regular season game. Talked about his open field tackling. I thought as a tackler, Beanie was really strong opening tackle on the kickoff, which was, if he doesn't make that tackle, Beanie doesn't, there's some return room there. It's a little dicey. So it was a great open field stop. Had a couple open field stops on tight ends, including one on your guy, Charlie Warner. I forgot that Charlie Warner had gone to Atlanta and made a tackle on him on third down, but that last stop on, I forget who it was. Was it McLeod? I forget who the receiver was with the next to last player, maybe the third to last play, because there was the spike after to tackle that Falcons receiver inbounds as they're trying to obviously get out of bounds with 30 seconds, no timeouts, and needing to drive the length of the field. And to make that play, the clock running, was a really big time play. And so I thought Beanie, he played a lot, played more than even what I thought he would, played in some dime packages, did some post snap rotation stuff. Thought it was a a good day one for Beanie Bishop.
Yeah, played a lot of snaps in that game as well too. So good for him. That was Ray McLeod with
Okay.
three. Let's see. That happened on first down for 28 seconds left of the game. That was that pass over to the right side there. So and you got a little bit of you got some clips up on the side of his tackling, don't you?
Yeah, I made a quick film room last night that went up this morning, just highlighting some of his tackles, all the ones I mentioned. So just to show that, and that was good to see. And McLeod were in that 34. What a weird number there, right? But yeah, overall, I was happy with that for Bishop, and to make that play in that situation. I mean, that kind of gets noticed. You make a tackle on 2nd and 8 in bounds. No one really pays much attention to it, but late in the game, clock running, it's a huge deal if the guy's inbounds or out of bounds to take him down inbounds and keep that clock running. That stuff coaches don't forget.
Tomlin gave Joey Porter Jr. obviously some flowers near the end of that press conference as well too, but he made sure to say it's a week to week. It's week to week in this business, and particularly in the quarterback position, because I'm sure there's a cornerback. They have quarterback in the transcript here, and particularly in the at the cornerback position, because I'm sure there's a gentleman named Cortland Sutton that's waiting on him in Denver, for example. That's the battle of playing corner in this league. But again, he loves it, and I'm glad that he does. So, look, Drake London was not a factor overall in this game. And kudos to Joey Porter for the game that he played.
Yeah, did a really nice job. But the ills of being the number one corner is you can't get too comfortable, because you're always facing a top dude the next week, and you're facing Cortland Sutton, as you said, in week 2, and that'll be a challenge there. Porter's certainly up to the task, but there's always just kind of the next thing to go to. It's never really any weeks off, and they really had Porter shadowing Drake London, and they put Jackson on Mooney, and those guys had very muted impacts, so that was big.
All right, anything else from Mike Tomlin?
I think that was the bulk of it. That was a pretty informative press conference, I thought, for Mike Tomlin standards.
Yeah, talked about, obviously, what more can you say about TJ Watt? We expect it, but we still appreciate it nonetheless.
Yeah, you should. Don't get bored with greatness is what JJ Watt comment, and should not get bored with what that guy does. And I've gone back to the All-22. I know you have as well. I know you've had a bunch of clips in game Sunday, but he timed up that snap perfectly. He was not offsides. He was 100% perfect on it. It was close. It was supposed to be close, but there should not have been a flag on that.
Absolutely. Boy, what would his stat line have looked like without them penalties mixed in? For sure.
3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Would have been 2 fumble recoveries, the one he actually recovered and the one that was taken away. I mean, it would have been even more dominant.
All right. Moving on from Tomlin.
Let's talk about the salary cap here. I know that you were burning the midnight oil to figure out there was a discrepancy in your numbers, what the NFLPA was showing, and you have figured out what happened. So can you explain why Pittsburgh lost over $1 million in salary cap space?
Yeah, I can. And it's part of me forgetting to earmark earlier in the offseason when Keanu Neal was released with a failed physical designation. It all started there at that point because of his veteran status and all. I should have earmarked to be on the lookout for a possible injury protection benefit claim in as part of the CBA and all, and that ended up hitting a couple of days ago. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, man, why did they? Because I keep daily any changes that happen on the NFL public salary cap sheet, and I know
as we all do,
as everybody does. And I note the date and how much it either dropped or gained. And then I got a notes column next to it that says why, this happened, so I can easily go back and reference it and make sure I stay reconciled. And I could not figure out why they lost $1.23 million. Well, I finally tracked it down, and Keanu Neal was released back in March with a failed physical designation before the start of the new league year. And then because of that, for the following season, I could spend 30 minutes and won't talking about the injury. It's in Article 45 and of the CBA that lays out all the jargon related to that, which the more you read it, the more confused that you get at times. But long story short, that the amount of that that goes against the cap is 1.23 million, and that is deducted from the salary cap. And it happened about a week ago, I think. So shame on me on that. As much as I like to think that I know and track this, I do make mistakes as well too. I'll try to limit those moving forward, but that would we're not just talking about $83,000 injury settlement here. Like you see with these rookies that get waived injured from or get waived from IR with injury settlements. 1.23 million is quite a hit on this team. But no, they were not surprised by this. I'm sure they knew this was coming and had the proper allotment of available salary cap space to accommodate this, but it did jump up on me.
Why does a team get penalized and lose that salary cap space because the player files the benefit? I don't understand how the team gets hurt by that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, he was injured during a game, for starters. This all stems back from the game against the Packers game and the interception and a rib injury. And then because he was weighed with the failed physical, once again, this gets deep into the CBA stuff and all like that. If he's unable to find work and they think it's because of him being injured, then the players can file a one-time injury protection benefit. And I think the cash that the actual player gets can be higher than the actual what's charged. And what happens is the NFL there's benefits that pick up a gap in there, but still the base end of it goes against the teams.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm great with a benefit. I think it's a great idea. So do the Steelers they'll pay that money out themselves?
Some of it. Yeah. Some of it in cash.
What they've been charged. Will they pay all of what they've been charged out, or is it not that full amount?
I believe it's going to be at least the full amount of what they're being charged against a cap that they have to give him in cash.
But they could end up having to give more.
No, that's where the league benefit picks up with I guess the NFLPA fund and
their pool of money.
The NFL benefits and all package picks up. Above that.
I just would have thought it would have come out of all from a pool that is created for earmarked for players like this. But I suppose that number could get pretty high pretty quickly.
Right.
All right. So I'm glad. So you're all squared away salary cap wise.
There's still other discrepancies, but minor ones around 700,000. But I think what's happening, I've talked to other nerds who cover other teams and their salary cap the way I attempt to. A lot of weird stuff going on with some of these injury settlements with these lower level guys being charged off to the wrong team or being double charged. And I've seen this in the past with the NFLPA that they make mistakes and then, on the sheet, and then they go back and correct it, and then you'll get a credit, week, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, those kind of things. So I think I'm pretty square, but not officially. And here's the other thing is that the NFLPA sheet has not switched over yet to removing the rule of 53 accounting, and they're normally
it's been like a week.
Yeah, they're normally slow on this. We keep trying to prod them on Twitter to get it done. So hopefully this week, because that's the only real way that we can reconcile is when they officially remove the rule of 51 from the accounting.
All right. Well, good deal there. Actually, there were a ton of people that read that. I noticed that there was a lot of traction on that article. So that was good for you to explain it, and happy that you figured it out and can sleep at night.
We do have the Friermuth contract details
Sure.
as well for me to go over here real quick, and it lined up pretty close overall the way I thought it would. Let me pull up the post here real quick on that. He received a signing bonus of $10.5 million, base salary this year of $1.1 million. He'll have a base salary next season of $10.785 million. He's got roster bonuses of $1.5 million beginning in 2026 through 2028. The main takeaway here, the cash flow, the new cash flow. We talk about cash a lot during the offseason and bore people to death, so I'm going to do it again. His new cash flow in this season is 10.11, almost 10.118 million. Where it gets interesting, because that's a little muted overall, because I think I talked during the offseason about, I kind of thought 12 to 13 million dollars in additional cash for Friermuth, so that came in a little bit lower than expected. However, his cash flow, new money cash flow through 2025 through 2027, the first 3 new years of the deal, are slightly higher than that of what Cole Kmet got in that last deal that we've talked a little bit about here. And I expected that to be the case, because Friermuth's new money average came in slightly under Cole Kmet's of 12.5 versus 12.1 million for Friermuth. So I did expect kind of the trade-off to be for Friermuth to have a little bit better new money cash flow, and that was indeed the case there. Friermuth's salary cap charge in 2024 only went up by $1.918 million and some change. So they did not use a lot of additional salary cap space in 2024 to get this deal done. And obviously, let's see, his cap charge next year was easy to work with at $12.885 million. Obviously, if they get in a situation they could restructure that. It's way too early to tell if they will or not at this time. But that's the long and short of the Friermuth deal.
So where does he officially rank in terms of the highest paid tight ends?
He comes in ninth in new money average, right between Cole Kmet and Dalton Schultz. And once again, his new money average came in at 12.1. I believe we talked and I wrote about, I set his floor market price at 12.5 million. So, he came in, not that my market value is the end all do all, but he came in a little bit lower than that. And I think when you look at new cash given him and APY and his guarantees too is only just the first year. You remember there was a report from Jerry Dulac saying that 22.385 million, or 22.385 million was guaranteed, and we kind of gave pause to that. What is fully guaranteed? And no, it's not 22.385 million. I'm sure that's got the injury guarantee language in it, but the only fully guaranteed money that he received was the 11.6 million, which is his $1.1 million base salary in 2024 and the $10.5 million signing bonus that he received.
So just give me your Cliff Notes version. Good deal for him, good deal for the team who, quote unquote, won this deal.
I think the Steelers did from a market value. I expect his market value to come in a slightly higher than it did. I expected his first year cash flow to be a little higher than the 11.6 million. I kind of pegged that at being 13, 14 million. So even though they had to give a little bit in the second through fourth new year of the contract to get his new money cash flow a little bit higher than Cole Kmet's, it's a fair trade-off and definitely one in the Steelers' favor. So I think the Steelers won this one.
All right, good deal. Thank you for the information and explaining it and laying it out for all of us to understand, myself included. All right, Dave, let's talk Steelers Falcons All-22. Now that we've had time to go back through the tape once, twice, 3 times, etc. Let's start with the offense here. already touched on it a fair amount, but just give me again your recap of Justin Fields' performance.
Yeah, he did what he was asked to do overall. I didn't gain any really. I went back obviously and looked at types of runs, zone versus gap man, those kind of things, and but I think overall. And look, once again, they only had 10 true pass sets in this game, which means there were screens and things that took the onus off of the offensive line and what we would call traditional drop back pass sets. He wasn't asked to do that overall, much, just 10 times in general there. But I thought decision wise, he was fairly sound overall. Look, there was that second or third play of the game where I even asked you, when he rolled out to the other side, did he miss Van Jefferson down the field? And your kind of thoughts was, well, he's looking to scramble, he's looking to see what's ahead of him. Either A, he missed him, didn't it could have been a big play because Van Jefferson definitely had one down the outside there. He probably just missed him. His eyes were probably looking upfield trying to scramble and make some yardage in that situation there. But the errors early in the game, the bad snaps, and even on one of the pitches to Najee, he kind of fumbled that exchange there. He had to miss over to the right to Van Jefferson early in the game. You can't miss that. He was a little bit late on a ball too. I think Calvin Austin in the game. Another placement over to the left on Pruitt, a little bit questionable there. That was incomplete. The one that he missed that I found I kind of struggled with was kind of that sail route over on the corner over there to Pickens
on his one-handed attempt. That one. Yeah, it's a tight window trying to get it over the underneath defender on the sideline. Could have been placed better. I thought it was a rough start, obviously, for him in this one. There were too many mistakes. And again, you talk about some of the command. There was even on that third down where they had to call timeout because they weren't lined up right. And that happened a couple times throughout this game. When I say he played smart, I think from a actual passing standpoint, once the ball was, corralled and height standpoint, I thought he played really smart with the football. But there was some more kind of procedural things, especially early, that where again, I think Wilson kind of shows some better command overall into. But yeah, once you got past the first couple of hiccups, the first drive or drive and a half, I thought he played a really, generally a clean game from there.
Yeah, I did as well too. And look, more importantly, he didn't turn the football over. Now I specifically wanted to get into the final, I don't know what dozen plays of this game, beginning at obviously this came after, or let's see, when did it come here? Beginning at 7:43, remaining in the fourth quarter, the 3rd and 2 from the Falcons 7. That screen over to Van Jefferson over to the right side. Man, they had the numbers over there and everything. You've got essentially you've got 3-on-2 over there. Pickens inside, Calvin Austin outside, and Jefferson, the pass catcher over there. Neither one of those guys, Pickens or Austin, did a great job with that block. Now, I don't have an issue with the play call because you got what you wanted over there. You get 3-on-2 in that situation. You like your chances to score from the 7, right?
Or at least convert at the very least.
Or at least convert because it's a 3rd and 2 situation there. So the execution failed them there. Both Pickens and Austin failed to block their guys up, and Jefferson only gained 1 yard. That set up the 4th and 1. And then we've already talked about, man, how hurried was that sneak, and were they set, and did everybody know what was going to happen? That could have been very, very costly. in that situation, because once again, you're not taking the easy three in that situation. Mike Tomlin said you've got to convert. You can't get 1 yard in that situation. Well, they didn't. So from that point forward, when you look at some of the plays, man, obviously they got the they got the punt back after the next Falcons possession at 5:13. You're thinking, all right, where's that 5 minute 12-second offense at in that situation there? It was uninspiring kind of play design, play calling, play execution at that point. Najee Harris left in for -3 yards. You're already in a hole there. 2nd and 13, pass incomplete over to the short right. I believe he had to throw that one away, didn't he?
On the screen? That was the screen pass?
Was that one? I'm trying to remember the 2nd and 13, the potential. It was incomplete over to the right.
Let me double check here. Yeah, that was the screen pass. The Falcons bottled up pretty well.
Okay. 3rd and 13, sacked in that situation. You punt it away. Obviously, that's a play that Johnston got injured on. You get the ball right back on an interception. Najee, right guard, 1 yard. And look, I understand they're in a situation you're trying to get them to burn the timeouts and all like that, but you got to execute, got to have better, play design in those situations there. Field scrambles on 2nd down for 4 yards. Okay, that, I guess that's okay after gaining 1 yard there, sets up a 3rd and 5. And then, Fields right tackle for 7 yards, obviously converted. That ended up being probably one of the bigger plays in the game. That play call there. But then after that, you go 1 yard to Najee, -1 yard to Najee. Fields left tackle for -1 yard, and then you settle for it. Felt very give up-ish. Let's take the field goal in that situation there. So my takeaway there is just overall those final 8 to 12 plays in that situation could have ended up costing them the game. Now, thankfully, the defense got the interception, and thankfully, Watt got closed out the game with the sack and all like that. But they've just got to be better in end of game situations than they were offensively than they were in those final. And look, there were some positives in there. Fields picking up the first down in the 3rd down situation and all like that. But they've got to be better in salting away games in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, some of it may speak to the conservative nature of the game plan, but yeah, I think on either of those 3 drives, Pittsburgh had the opportunity to basically put the Falcons away, and they could not. And the game still came down to the defense having to make one last stop, even though the Falcons were really in a tough situation, needing a touchdown and 2-point conversion, need to drive 70 yards, no timeouts, 30 seconds left. So still, you don't want to have to put your defense on the field one more time. They should have been able to close that out, or at least been up 2 possessions and basically coasted to the finish. And so you want to be able to see, just in general, they could not finish drives. It was even hard to get into the red zone in this game, despite the time of possession and the success they had running the football overall, let alone finishing drives off, which they were unable to do. So you do want to see them be able to punch it in, because you're not going to win many games kicking nothing but field goals.
And look, they had them, there's that point in that late third, fourth quarter there where they wore them down with the run,
Oh yeah, there's no question about that.
Friermuth talked about it during his interview during the show last night with Jerry Dulac and all like that. They knew that they had that defense tired, and they couldn't continue it in the more Heidi moments later in the fourth quarter when they could have just salted that game away with a 5-minute drive.
Right. And to be fair, Atlanta knew Pittsburgh was going to run the ball, and they stacked the box, and there wasn't a lot of running room to be had, but still want to be able to impose your will and be able to finish off one of those drives at the very least and put that game away for good.
Now, look, formationally and some of the other play calling, as you said, once you got into the second half, thought the play calling and the mixing up of the formations and the personnel groupings really went well. Not oftentimes have we gotten a chance over the years to talk about 14 personnel groupings, much less really 13 personnel groupings if you think about it there. But what they did with 14, they got the Falcons to burn a timeout with one 14 personnel grouping, and then one of the other ones on that keeper on the on the short conversion there. They rolled out 14. They spread them out. The Falcons were, it was the play clock was winding down. The Falcons were confused. It set up a surface area of just 3 men up front, maybe 4 in the box if you want to count the overhang outside linebacker in that situation. And it just set up a very, very situation where you expect to win those, especially when you got a guy like Justin Fields. So I would now expect to see out of 13 and even 14 personnel moving forward, being able to come up with pass play designs, to take advantage of smaller bodies on big bodies.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about 13, 14 personnel, you think about everyone's in tight, they're all hand in the dirt, and it can be that, but it does not have to be that. It can be where you spread things out. And initially, they showed they were in tight, and then shifted to empty, and so you're making defenses respond on the fly, not just out of the huddle, and to put some additional stress and strain, which it certainly did for Atlanta. They were trying to communicate, get guys to cover and walk out, and guys who typically aren't doing that. Some linebacker types trying to play over in space, over number 2 on the outside. They're uncomfortable doing that, and they certainly looked at in that situation. So yeah, there's just flexibility and versatility to be had there, which is exciting about this offense.
All right, and that big play late in the first half to George Pickens, that was by design, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to figure out the way the Fields talked about it after the game. It sounded like Pickens was kind of more of a not the primary option on the play. I don't know if there was other commentary. I don't know if Pat or somebody talked about that.
Friermuth said that was by design.
I mean, that's what it felt like to me when I watched it live. Yeah, to kind of roll left and then throw back to the right. I mean, there's options. Obviously, you're reading the play based on coverages, but yeah, I mean, you certainly got the feel of Fields' arm strength to make that left hash throw to the right sideline on the money. Not a throw that all quarterbacks are able to make so effortlessly as he did. And that was a nice job to get his hips around. It's tough to do. You're rolling left and having to square back up to the right, and he was mechanically sound and made a really strong throw.
I thought there were some other times that he stood in that pocket too, under pressure, and took some hits and got the ball out where it needed to go too. So he wasn't bailing. He took a couple of pops in this game.
Yeah.
And I thought he did good standing in there, especially that one that you highlighted, that over to Najee, getting that ball out to Najee over to the right side there.
Right, and so that's when I sit there and say, yeah, the game plan was tailored to help curtail any potential mistakes that Fields made, but still, when you're dealing with pressure and you got a rush coming at you, you can still make a mistake. Throw the game plan out the window, the play call out the window. What are you going to do? You're going to make a mistake. You're going to make a bad throw. Kirk Cousins certainly made a bunch of them against pressure. Pressure really influenced him into problems. Are you going to take a bad sack? You're going to try to run around and lose a bunch of yards, and he found a check down to Najee Harris for 9 yards on that play. The throw to George Pickens for 40 yards. You got, it was Grady Jarrett right down your face, and able to stand tall, deliver, make a great throw. Put it away from the cornerback, away from leverage, let the receiver run to it, and Pickens made a fantastic catch. And so, yeah, I thought Fields handled pressure really well, and that was important because he's not somebody always known for handling pressure well. That's when he's made some of his errors and mistakes. So it was a smart game, safe game. And yeah, some people have said, to me, well, Kenny Pickett was the same. We all criticized Kenny Pickett for not, making the high level plays. And again, Fields made some of those high level plays, 3 deep balls to Pickens, the one that was negated by the questionable OPI. But with Fields, like, we know he can make the high level play. Can he make the smart plays too? And he showed he was able to do that, at least again as a passer, post snap. Once you get past some of the bobbled exchanges that must be cleaned up. With Pickett, it was, we knew he could make the safe play. Could he make the big time play? It never really got to that point. Didn't really progress in that way. So Fields was kind of showing strength where he's been a weakness in the past. And so that's the difference in how I evaluate that element of his performance.
And look, it's easy to talk about the middle of the field stuff and the average depth of target, average depth of completion, and all. That talk would be muted a little more had they buried 1 or 2 of those red zone opportunities, right?
Yeah, and you're not
because they moved the football.
Yeah, they did. They had the ball for 35 minutes. I mean, they possessed the football. They raided 17 on third down. I mean, they were able to possess the ball between the 20s well. It was just finishing off inside or right around kind of high red zone. They were unable to do, and that has to obviously change. And as for, because I see the memes like you do about they don't throw the ball middle of the field. Listen, they did not want to throw anywhere near Bates and Simmons. That's where you can get into some big time trouble. And so I thought Pittsburgh had a smart game plan to avoid that. And Dan Orlovsky was talking about they can't do quick game with Fields. They got to come up with a quick game. Listen, I mean, they ran. How many boots did they run in this game? How many rollouts did they run in this game, especially in the second half? For Friermuth, for Washington, for Pruitt. I mean, that was their quick game. It's not literally quick, but it is kind of the easy half field read stuff. Fields even ran one time with his legs and picked up 4 or 5 yards late in the game off the same concept. So I would probably take issue with Orlovsky's point because they were doing some designed, safe kind of pass calls. That was kind of their quick game substitute.
Especially when you roll back, there's only 10 true pass sets.
Yeah, right. Like you said, I mean, there was a lot of move the launch point, cut the field in half for Fields, make it some easy reads. I mean, they did it all preseason, but they ran the same flat, over route, corner route combination like a half dozen times in this game. They dressed it up in some different ways and some different ways to go about it, which was smart. But yeah, they conceptually, they kept things pretty simple.
And they gave them some easy reads, like the one to Friermuth over to the left,
Yeah, like I said, those rollouts, you're reading low high and the flat stare. If you're kind of working leverage and he's got a step, then you're going to hit that. If not, you're going to progress, downfield. And most of the time, the flat was there to Friermuth, to Washington, to Pruitt, and then one time Fields ran it himself. He really didn't throw downfield off of that too much. There was the one incompletion to Pickens. He tried to push it, which was a fine decision to make. But yeah, they kept things simple, kept things easy, and he played within the scheme. And that's the mesh of what you're looking for. Have a good scheme, play within it, execute, win the game.
All right, and this probably won't be surprising, but as far as run concepts, looks like 24 zone, 9-man gap.
Yeah, but they pulled a little bit. They ran some counter. Fields himself, it was a counter power run. So primarily zone, which is the Arthur Smith personality. They ran a lot more gap in the preseason, but it is one game and things will ebb and flow overall, but not surprised to see the zone heaviness show up in week 1.
All right, anything else from the offense?
Let's see. Offensive line, any other? I thought Ross McCorkle with a really good film room on Zach Frazier, just, being Zach Frazier, just mauling people and being a pain.
Zach Frazier probably had the most fun of anybody on offense in that game.
He went past after the first snap. At first snap, you're probably like, oh my God, we almost screwed that up so bad. But once you get past that, yeah, I thought, that one great run that Najee had, which is a great vision and cutback by him. I mean, Frazier's just moving that D tackle down the line and just taking him to Savannah, as you would say. So, yeah, I thought Frazier just kind of imposed his will. He's got great leg drive and finish.
He's only going to get better, too, moving forward, you would think.
Yeah. I thought Dan Moore wasn't really tested that much, but he did well. And Darnell Washington just had a great game. Only one catch, but as a blocker, moving people in the run game. I posted that one clip of him pass blocking against Matthew Judon and just stoning him on that bull rush. I mean, that's stuff you want to see. And they really worked on his pass pro in training camp with Washington. He's going to do it a lot more this year than last year. And he looked like a true tackle in that play.
Yep. Good clips by you on that. All right. Defensive side of football. A lot of cover 3 in this one. Less so of cover 2, quarters, and cover 1.
Yeah, I would say a lot of cover 3 coming down to play the run and stop Bijan, especially after that first drive where they had some progress. I saw some post-snap rotations. They actually used Corey Trice as the free safety and some of their dime personnel there. I think to me where it started was...
Talk about that Bronco package.
Yeah, that's the thing we discussed in training camp. That's their 3 outside linebacker rush package with Herbig and Watt and Highsmith on the field at the same time. They used that in obvious pass situations 8 times in total, including some of the plays that were wiped out by penalty. They used it at the end of the game there. So it's 1 defensive lineman, which was mostly Mon Adams, and then 3 outside linebackers, Patrick Queen, and traditional 6 DBs for your dime package. And they ran some different stunts, and it wasn't the most effective thing, but there are ways to get all 3 guys on the field to probably keep messing with it. And, it's a way to really get your best rushers out there on the field.
I forgot, I had this written down to ask you. Yeah, hopefully you have your charting pulled up. How many third downs did Cameron Hayward play?
About half of them. Somebody was asking me yesterday about that. Again, in that Bronco package, they have it specifically with Mon Adams. So that was even in training camp. I checked my notes. Adams was out there for that situation. So that's kind of a his package thing, which probably because they would assume he had fresh legs and is a good athlete and can kind of handle some of the stunts and twists. But so you're looking for all third downs or third down passing situations, or
just all third downs.
all right, let me take off the penalties here. Give me 1 second. They were smarter with his snap count. He played 63% of the snaps, which is what we've been asking for years to kind of manage his number better, so he wasn't playing 85%. Let's see. All third downs, I got him down for 4 of the 9, excluding the ones from penalties there. So, but he played more third down snaps than Benton, than Ogunjobi, than Liao, than Loudermilk. And I think he played as many snaps as Adams did. And Adams, again, was being used in that Bronco package.
But he's washed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I heard it all off season, and I was going to make that point. Just watching him on tape, he was so good against the run. I mean, Hayward was just controlling the line of scrimmage, getting off of blocks. He made that, even though they converted the next play, but that 3rd and 2 tackle he had in the hole on Bijan to set up the 4th and 1 and made Atlanta go for it, which Pittsburgh knew was coming, by the way. Deshaun Elliott read that one. He's moving before Bijan ever moves himself, and he just got caught on the tackle and couldn't get the edge, and Bijan picked it up. But they knew that play was coming, just couldn't execute, unfortunately. But yeah, Hayward, I thought, was his typical Hayward self. He got pressures. I got never 2 pressures. He almost had the sack that Adams beat him to in that race. I mean, to me, it was just classic Cam Hayward, and this guy, still playing at a high level.
All right, Patrick Queen missed some tackles.
Yeah, maybe not his best game. I don't know. It's one game in. I was only kind of frustrated by that one early on the first drive where Bijan got the edge and Queen is right there with him and missed a tackle and fell off, and Robinson turned upfield. That's a play where the Queen's out there in space. He's got to be able to make, and so I was hoping to see that. But one game will go from there.
All right, what else stuck out to you defensively?
What else stuck out to me defensively? Yeah, I just, like you said, a lot of coverage, a lot of zone coverage, I should say. What was your interpretation of the Kyle Pitts touchdown? What do you think went wrong on that play?
I just think they allowed Kirk Cousins to extend that thing, and they got caught, flooded to that side, and not enough bodies over there for Beanie to both watch for something underneath there or behind him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought Atlanta just had a good call. They flooded Pittsburgh's cover 3. They're running basically 3 verticals to that side, double posts, and then the wheel with Pitts up to the left sideline. And Bishop has to. He's playing underneath. He's kind of playing the flat. The running back is there to hold him. He's not able to get depth, and Cousins throws it over his head. So I just thought Pittsburgh, they don't match as much as other teams, and so that kind of gets them into trouble. They still kind of play more spot drop zone. But I thought Atlanta just had a good call to flood Pittsburgh's cover 3.
And I think one of the main takeaways that I said the other day, man, Kirk Cousins did not look comfortable, looked rusty. Surprised we didn't see more play action. The Steelers, I thought, adjusted well to the run as the game went on, took away some of that perimeter stuff from them. And then, I mean, just the pressure was just relentless. It felt like picking up, after that first drive or so there. And it really, even though Kirk Cousins talked about, I look forward to get banged around and all like that, he wasn't comfortable back there, and he rushed a couple of throws, made some decisions that didn't need to be made. What about that one early throw down the middle of the field where he overthrew it, and Minka was going back a little bit at a time and started to cut and lost his feet. I look at that. I wonder, man, if Minka doesn't lose his feet, I think Minka might get there and pick that one.
Trying to think which one that was. Was it the diving one where Casey was near it too? Or are you talking about something else?
I think it was another one. Yeah, there. Okay. It was, forget it was a middle of the field throw.
Was there a penalty on that play? Was that the one where Highsmith got called offsides? I think that was one over the middle that was thrown. Yeah, I think that was the Highsmith offsides play. But there was one where Cousins threw it on 3rd down and it was blanketed and Casey's there, and it was a really bad decision by Kirk Cousins. I thought Highsmith made some impact plays in terms of the quick game. He blew up a screen, the Cousins had the dirt and they tried to throw a running back screen on the goal line after that failed 4th and 1 that Highsmith got a hand on and knocked away. So I don't think Highsmith was super impactful as a pass rusher. He got called off sides one time, but I thought he made some disrupting plays in the screen game and the short game in this one. I thought Pittsburgh just defended the screen game overall pretty well.
And kudos once again to Peyton Wilson for saving the touchdown on that opening drive. On that screen as well too. I don't have a lot of heavy thought. I mean, they just smothered them really overall after that first drive. They did such a great job, and as much as they tried to not let TJ wreck the game, he wrecked the game. They did predominantly zone coverage in this thing, and they did well with it.
And how much yak was there? I should ask myself because I have the charting on these, but I thought the tackling was pretty clean. I thought the DBs tackled well. I thought Bishop, as we talked about, Minka, of course, tackled well. He always tackles well. Dante Jackson even had a tackle in space, I think, after a conversion. I mean, there was not a ton of yak in terms of completions, and I'm just kind of doing numbers on the fly here.
You should have the yak column there.
I do. Yep. I'm just making sure I have all the no plays taken off, and I'm not messing something up here. I got 73 yards of total yak here. There were a couple of more explosive plays. So maybe it was okay in terms of yak, but yeah, I thought overall, I thought they tackled well overall.
All right. Josh Carney has the missed tackle report up on the site for anybody who wants to see that as well.
Yeah, please check that out. All right, Dave, any special teams thoughts here? Gunners, saw some defensive linemen on kick coverage. Latimer got a couple of snaps there. Leal got some work there. So under these new kickoff rules, seeing some little bit of differences in personnel being used.
I gotta be honest, I did not download the special teams reel.
Dave, come on. No,
yeah, it's all right. I did not get that far into doing it.
Peyton Wilson's left wing. I had the burning question who would be the left wing, and ended up being Peyton Wilson. So don't see too many linebackers out there. And Pruitt was the right wing, which I thought for sure would be Deshaun Elliott, but they used Pruitt at least for a couple of the punts to run those down.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see once again how Edmunds, assuming he does dress, if he does dress, how they utilize him. Will we see Ben Skoranek elevated again? I mean, just early thoughts. I do kind of wonder if Roman Wilson's going to get a helmet this week.
Yeah, still may have him getting healthy and getting reps is probably the first step. And then getting a hat and actually playing might be a step a couple weeks from now, because he's really kind of like starting back at training camp day one to get back in practice and kind of integrate himself in. So there's a moving train to be caught there. Edmunds certainly could be used on special teams, and he could certainly be used as a wing, and so could Jalen Elliott if he's ever active. That's one reason why I think he was kept around.
All right. What else do we have from the game?
That's all I got from the game off the top of my head. Any other final thoughts by you?
No, I think we got it there.
All right. With that, if there's something else for us to discuss, no breaking news coming in, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
Are you seeing anything on Players of the Week yet?
Usually they're in by now, but I have not been refreshing Twitter too much today. But I'm sure I would have seen it had it come in. So I have not seen it yet. No.
All right. Let's look at some emails here. Jeff Berg. Who do you thought was more important cog, Muth or Najee? Muth got the nice hefty contract, but he really is yet to be a dominant force on Sunday. Najee, however, has had over 1,000 rushing yards every year, and Sunday against the Falcons, he was productive. So I'm wondering which player each of you thought was a more important player right now as we sit here today.
Just overall, who's the more important player?
Friermuth versus Najee.
It's a good question. I should also note I did not think Friermuth blocked well on Sunday against Atlanta, which is not a huge surprise, but I was hoping to see a little bit more.
Jefferson neither.
Yeah. When I watched that back, I had your comment in my head. I did not realize how poorly Jefferson blocked in this game, but he was pretty rough in this one. Who was more important? I mean, that's tough. And that is tough. I'll lean Najee just because it's such a run-oriented type of team. But I think both play very valuable roles.
Yeah, I'd lean Najee at least coming out of week one, for sure. He looked out. He yards after contact. I know I'm going to end up getting hit for this, but man, I cringe every time I see him hurdle. I think, oh man, don't get yourself hurt. And what's going to happen now is this Sunday, he's going to have one of these fantastic hurdles. He's going to go for a touchdown or 30 something yards. But man, I don't know about you. I always cringe when he hurdles there. But I thought he played very well. Najee did in that game, cutbacks and looked a little thinner and a little bit more agile. And this sets up what we'll get into this Friday, but this is setting up for a nice running game for the Steelers against this Broncos defense. I don't know how deep you've gotten into it yet. Deshaun Campbell. Why won't the Steelers give James Daniels an extension? He's a solid right guard. We have no quarterback getting huge money, and why not keep this O-line intact and let them develop together? Why let a key piece walk? I think it's his ceiling combined with the guard market. Deshaun, we've talked about this quite a bit. I think it's been known for several weeks now, if not months, that Daniels was not going to get an extension from this team this offseason.
Yeah, I've talked about it some. I thought Daniels had a really good game too. I thought he showed more nasty as a run blocker than what I've typically seen. He took Grady Jarrett for a ride on that one play and put him on the ground and kind of pitched Jarrett off. And so that was nice to see. But yeah, I think it comes down to
Jarrett was glad to get to the locker room after that game, I think, because several offensive linemen with the Steelers took him for a ride in that game.
Yeah, I thought overall, I mean, he made a couple of plays. And so, you don't want to see that, but he's a talented guy. He did not take over the game, which was obviously Pittsburgh did not allow any of the Falcons studs to really have a great game. They all had pretty muted performances. But yeah, as you said, Dave, the guard market, you look at what Dotson got. I forget all the names of the guards who've been paid. You know them better than I do. Dotson, Hunt, I forget all the others, but the market is really, to pay Daniels basically double, if not more, than what you had previously just paid him. And that's probably a little too much for him. And they like McCormick and probably are viewing McCormick as his replacement.
All right, Marcus Perkner writes in, do you think it would be better to let Cordell Patterson and or Connor Hayward play some more snaps at wide receiver due to the poor blocking from the rest of the group? Connor said in Cam's podcast he would like to play wide receiver, and I think it's time to involve him more in the offense, is his first question here. Look, I think what's evident coming out of this first game is if these tight ends all stay healthy, Connor's going to see diminished snaps, period.
Yeah, only played 5 there. I mean, let's give it more time. I mean, it's week 1. Obviously, I'm not going to talk up how great this receiver group looks beyond George Pickens. I don't think it's going to dramatically change. We're going to talk here by week 5 going, man, this is such a great and deep receiver room. But, it's one game. I want to keep watching, get some more trends and some more snaps before we start kind of talking about making some big changes to how this offense should look and be approached.
I mean, he's not a wide receiver. That's why he's not being used more in wide receiver situations.
Right. I mean, he's going to be a chess piece. He's going to wear a couple different hats. Not going to have a true role. Snap counts will ebb and flow. Actually, he's kind of as a running back more in some of those third down situations and kind of lead blocker type stuff on that field, counter power, for example. So, yeah, I mean, I like to see him down the seam some. I think he's effective down there, but, he's not going to be somebody you're game planning to get 50 snaps a game.
All right. Second question from Mark is up your alley, Alex. I'm going to visit Pittsburgh and watch the Steelers against the Browns. Do you have any recommendations for a little group of Austrian guys? What to do post game and must-sees in general in Pittsburgh? Got to ride the incline, right?
Yeah, go up to Mount Washington. I am the worst Pittsburgh tour guide ever. I'm so sorry.
You're not gonna work for the Chamber of Commerce, are you?
Yeah, I just can't sell it that well. I don't get out a ton here. Obviously, I'm So Googling and other things.
Gotta go to Primanti's.
Yeah, there's some good steakhouses down there. The incline for sure. Go up to Mount Washington, but you guys will be fine. I'm sure. There's a. I don't know if it's not less touristy. It's kind of more just do's and don'ts. But there's a YouTube channel called what's it called? Walter's World, which is always kind of fun for kind of just getting a lay of the land for new places. He's got some Pittsburgh videos out there. So you two will be a much better tour guide than I think I will ever be, unfortunately.
All right. Let's see if I got anything else here before I close this out here. Bryce wants to know, Arthur Smith loves the outside zone, but should he swallow his pride a little bit for week 2 and commit more to the gap and power schemes that worked well for this offensive line? I think getting guys like Broderick on the move to hit people could help him going and set up for success. Look, we're 1 week in, and I just rattled off what the difference was between. This is going to be primarily, a zone scheme anyway, and they did run some outside zone, right? But Arthur Smith loves that mid zone as well too. It will be interesting to see. There was what was the nugget that I started preparing to look at when I pull up the tape this coming week? Hold on here. This is per fantasy points. Under Sean Payton, the Broncos have been a team for opposing offenses to attack on the ground. This season started off no differently as Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker crossed the century mark thanks to 2.25 yards per contact per attempt, good for 10th best in the NFL. Where Walker really had success was on gap concept runs, on which he gashed the Broncos for 64 yards on 10 carries, including 23-yard touchdown run in the third quarter. So I've already given you some homework for us, Alex, when we get deeper into this Broncos tape.
Yeah, I mean, I get the question, but I kind of reject the premise. I don't think Smith has to swallow his pride. I mean, I think all these guys probably have egos to some degree, and that's good and that's healthy. But I don't think really Smith has a big ego. I think when you look at that game plan, to be that conservative and just like play it safe, because as a play caller, you're probably like, we want to put these guys away. We want to hit that big play. I want to show you guys how smart I am. But we were just like simple and smart, and didn't want to try to do too much and get out there with a victory. So, and listen, they ran a bunch of gap in the summer. They still ran some in this game. There might have been some kind of RPO type stuff where they pulled somebody and didn't actually hand the ball off and something else happened. So, I know he's his own guy. It's still going to be kind of his personality, but I think he's had a pretty varied run game. I don't really see him needing to swallow his pride. If they got to run a bunch of gap to make it work, then they'll do that. And Pat Meyer has a role in the run game as well. And they've run a bunch of they've run every concept that you could run under him. So, I don't really think it's a big issue.
And as I stated, they ran 58.5% zone versus 22% man gap.
Yeah, and listen, inside zone and duo, the old joke is, which is which. They're pretty similar. There's differences, but they're pretty similar. So if you run a bunch of inside zone, it's not like that dramatically different. I know he's saying kind of gap isn't pulling guys, but they pulled
Anderson.
They pulled Dan Moore on a dart scheme one time. So it's in the playbook.
All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nope, we'll get out of here and come back on Friday. Hopefully I think we've got a great Broncos guest lined up, and so we'll talk to him and preview the game.
All right. Let's see. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions. And look, merely signing up for the ad-free does not get you in. You've got to remember the username and the password that you set up, and then you have to log in to the site by using the login button up top in the navigational bar. You'll need your username and the password that you create to do that. Merely signing up and paying for the ad-free does not give you the ad-free experience. You have to log in. I get so many people after the fact that that pay for it, and then they say, I'm not getting the ad-free version. You've got to make sure you remember the username and password that you create, and then hit the login button and get into the site that way to experience the ad-free. So bad on me for not properly explaining that and laying it out better. All right.
Yeah, good enough.
So in the meantime, you already did all that part. Until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.